This is a short lesson on algebra basics. The first part of the lesson is going to answer the question, what is algebra? Before we look at some basic operations of algebraic terms. We will then finish the lesson by looking at factorisation and expanding brackets. If you want to navigate around the video, as always, the links are in the video description. So what is algebra? Well, algebra is the study and manipulation of symbols, and it is a unifying thread for many parts of mathematics. In algebra, we use symbols to represent numbers, and we then carry out operations that allow us to find the value of that number. In algebra, we use symbols to represent the values that we're trying to find. When we don't know a value, we use a symbol instead. We put it in the place of an equation or a function, and we can then, through a series of operations, find the value of that symbol. When we're conducting operations with these symbols, we treat them just like we would if it was a normal number. There's only some small changes in notation. For instance, if I was to add together 3 and 4, I would get the answer 7. This is me adding together two things and getting one thing as my answer. But if I was to add together 3 and x, I can't write this as one symbol, so we simply keep this as 3 plus x. Now let's look at some of the basic operations we conduct on algebraic terms. When we are conducting algebra, we usually use letters such as x, y, and z. However, while these are the most common letters, we will probably use all of the letters from not just our own alphabet, but from the Greek alphabet as well. A, B, and C are often used for constants, while X, Y, and Z are often used for variables. If you've forgotten what these words mean, go back and watch the introductory video on terminology. If we add together two symbols, such as X and Y, we simply write this as X plus Y. If we subtract Y from X, we simply write this as X minus Y. There is no way that we can simplify this any further than that. However, if we were to multiply x and y, we write them beside each other with no symbols in between. This simply means that the x is multiplying with the y. If we had something like 3x dividing by y, we write this as a fraction with 3x on the top and y on the bottom of the fraction. When we multiply two letters that are the same, like x times x, we simply write this as x squared. If we were to multiply three letters that are the same, like y times y times y, we would write this as y cubed. This obviously continues for any number of letters that are multiplying by themselves. Now let's talk about collecting like terms. Collecting like terms is the only way that we can simplify the addition of algebraic terms. Now, to understand that, we need to understand what a term is, and then once we understand what a term is, we can talk about what a like term is. Well, a term is just a combination of numbers and letters that have been multiplied or divided with one another. Examples of terms will be x, 2x, 3y, and so on. Like terms are terms with the same combination of letters. Here the numbers don't really matter, but it's the combination of letters which matters. So an example of three like terms would be x, 5x, and minus 2x. These are all like terms because they only have one x and they have no other letters. Y squared, 2y squared, and minus 3y squared are also three like terms because they have the same combination of letters, y squared. X and x squared are not like terms because one has just one x while the other has x times x. Collecting like terms mean adding together all the terms that are like terms, i.e. all the terms which have the same combination of letters. We cannot add together x and x squared. We simply have to write this as x plus x squared. But if we have x plus x squared plus 2x, we can combine the x and the 2x, and this simplifies to 3x plus x squared. Let's look at a few more examples. If we had 5x plus 2y minus x, this would simplify to 4x plus 2y, because 5 minus 1 is 4, therefore the 5x minus the 1x equals 4x. Another example would be 3y squared minus x plus y squared. which would simplify to 4y squared minus x, because 3y squared plus y squared equals 4y squared. You will conduct this operation many times while completing your GCSE maths course. As soon as you see a collection of terms, you want to look through that collection of terms and see if there are any like terms that you can add together. This will mean that you will have a reduced number of terms and the entire equation or whatever it is will become a lot more manageable. Expanding brackets is one of the most common operations that you're going to conduct during your GCSE maths course. Brackets help us to demonstrate in what order the different numbers and letters on our page need to be multiplied or added, divided or subtracted. If you are given a number or a letter outside a bracket and the bracket contains a number of terms adding or subtracting from each other, to expand this bracket you need to multiply the number or the letter outside the bracket by everything inside the bracket, one term at a time. When doing this, be very careful to remember what signs the things that you're multiplying together are. Let's look at an example. X upon x plus 3, where the x plus 3 is in a bracket, expands to x squared plus 3x. This is because x times x is x squared and x times 3 is 3x. 3 upon y squared minus 10 would expand to 3y squared minus 30. When completing this operation, just take it one term at a time, multiplying whatever it is outside the bracket by each term inside the bracket. You might also have to multiply two brackets together. When conducting this, remember the acronym FOIL. The F in FOIL stands for firsts, the O stands for outsides, I stands for insides, and L stands for lasts. When you're doing this, you can draw lines on the brackets as I've demonstrated to help you remember what needs to multiply with what. If you're multiplying together two brackets, each with two terms, you should get an answer which has four terms added together. Let's go through a quick example. Let's say we had x plus 3 multiplying with another bracket which was y minus 2. The firsts here are x and y, and they multiply together to give us x, y. The lasts here are x and minus 2. These multiply together to give us minus 2x. The insides here are plus 3 and y, multiplying together to give us plus 3y. And the lasts are plus 3 and minus 2. These multiply together to give us minus 6. And there we have our four terms in the expansion of our two brackets. Factorisation or factorising is the opposite of expanding brackets. If you have to factorise something, think about adding brackets in to whatever it is that's written on the page. When I am factorising a selection of terms that I've been given, I go through the following process. First, I look at the numbers, which are sometimes called the coefficient for each of the terms. Here we have three terms, 2x squared, 4xy and 8x cubed. Looking at the numbers, the coefficients for each of the three terms, I want to find the highest common factor of the three numbers. The highest common factor of 2, 4 and 8 is 2, and I write this down. I next look at the first letter that comes up in the first term, which is an x, and I look for the highest power of x that is present in every term. In the first term I have x to the power of 2, in the second term I just have x, and in the third term I have x cubed. Therefore the highest power that is present in every term is just x, and I write this down beside my 2. I then look at each of the terms and see if there are any other letters which are common to all three terms. In this case, only the second term has a y in it. There are no y's in the first or third terms. Therefore, y can't be extracted as a common factor of all three terms. Now that I've gone through all the terms and checked for all the letters, I am ready to start writing in my bracket. I open my bracket and I look at my first term and divide my first term by whatever it is that is now sitting outside the bracket. 2x squared divided by 2x is just x, so I write this as the first term inside my bracket. I look at the second term and I divide this by 2x as well. 4x squared y divided by 2x is just 2y. I then write this inside my bracket as well. I then finish by looking at the third term, which is 8x cubed. 8x cubed divided by 2x is 4x squared, and this becomes the final term inside my bracket. I then close my bracket, and the factorisation of these three terms is complete. When factorising, you need to remember the following rule, which allows you to divide one thing by another and work out the resulting indice. The rule is as follows. X to the power of a divided by x to the power of b equals x to the power of a minus b. Remember that x to the power of a just means x multiplied by itself a times. Let's look at a few examples to see how this works. Let's start off with x squared divided by x. Well, x is really just x to the power of 1. There's just one x. So when we do x squared divided by x, this is x to the power of 2 minus 1, which is just x. X cubed divided by x would be x to the power of 3 minus 1, which is x squared. And x to the power of 4 divided by x to the power of 2 would be x to the power of 4 minus 2, which is x to the power of 2, or x squared.